All right, people. This is going to be a test. We're going to see if... I'll tell you... Okay, I'll tell you in a second. Right now, just watch the video.
I need you guys to know that when you see celebrities, influencers, musicians, whoever promoting Kamala Harris, it's because they're paid. And I know because they've approached me 3 times now. They always come in with the same offer. We want you to promote Kamala. We want you to say these talking points. And then I see a celebrity like Chriselle from Selling Sunset with a copy paste of that exact email. And then she posts, vote, vote, looking like super hot in a picture. But nobody puts paid post underneath these. It's propaganda. I don't know how it's not considered illegal to do that when it's the election. When any other time, if we're not making it obvious that we're promoting something we're paid to promote, we could get in trouble. The last offer I got from Kamala Harris's team was $25,000, I believe, for just a couple stories on my Instagram. And I had some other really big offers, and I decided to not take any of them. With a few days left to the election, I just couldn't think to myself, we are this close to having a healthy America, to getting us out of this freaking pharmaceutical haze that we've been in, to get us like healthy food again, to get the pesticides off of our food. These are things we could fix in my lifetime. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't take the money. It felt like blood money. I fuck with RFK Jr. Everything that he's saying is correct. It's right. And as someone who went through the medical system and spent years of my life disabled when I probably didn't need to if I had proper care, I can't stand by and let other people suffer. I couldn't do it.
I'm going to tell you one thing, people. This is what a pure soul I am. I didn't see her chest the first time I watched this. And then I'm looking at the comments. I'm like, what's everyone talking about? And then I go, and then I see what everyone's talking about. We're going to see if this gets flagged by YouTube. And I'm not trying to make fun. She obviously wore that shirt on purpose. There's no problem with people dressing the way they want. I'm in a mall, and I'm like listening to what Nicole Arbor is saying about this. And then I see what people were commenting about. I did not share this video for that particular reason. I shared this video because I reached out after this because she's confirming what we all knew, that these celebrity hacks, these paid influencers, are being paid to push Kamala propaganda. I mean, we all know it. Kamala Harris is the most phony, insincere, manufactured, non-existent candidate in the history of politics, as far as at least in my life. So I'm listening to that, and it was just hilarious. I figured Nicole Arbor is, set aside what everybody thinks of her. I know some people have their issues with her, and I don't really know enough of any history to know what anybody's talking about. She's confirming what we all know, that it's a manufactured mockingbird candidate, a Manchurian candidate with a mockingbird media, just manufacturing consent but for the media hype and these paid influencers to come out and say, I'm on Team Kamala. Krasensteins, the Sissons, I mean, the finest examples of masculinity, if that's where we're going with this. Who else? I tagged some dude, I don't even know who the hell he is, some white dude telling women who to vote for. Ironically enough, exactly what the Democrats are saying Republicans are doing. But Nicole Arbor is confirming what we all knew, that it's paid influencers being paid by this Kamala Harris campaign to like her. Because Kamala Harris has to pay people to like her. People pay to go see Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Kamala Harris has to pay people to like her and has to trick people into showing up to campaign events to show support. All right, people. Tonight, we're going to have an interesting show. First of all, I apologize for the confusion coming in. I didn't realize I set the stream up for 6:30. And then I see people saying, oh, what's up? It's starting at 6:30. And I thought they were talking daylight savings time because today's daylight savings time. My bad. And I realized I had to manually change the time in all 3 separate platforms, YouTube, Rumble, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And I probably should have made sure that before we get any further, we are live across all of the platforms. Viva Barnes Law Extravaganza Sunday night show. Let me hear the audio here. Audio's beautiful. We're live on Rumble. Are we live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com? We are, and we're live on CommuTube, where we will not be staying forever. For those of you who are new to the channel, there might be a number of people who are new because trying to fight the YouTube censorship algorithm. I mean, I love a challenge. It's obvious that there is suppression, that there are favorites, there are people who get inorganically promoted. I say this not out of jealousy. It's just the rules of the game. And I know that I'm playing by these rules and I can't complain. You just notice it. So there might be some new people here tonight because yesterday, deep breath, I put out a video talking about the murder of Peanut and Fred the raccoon. Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon. And it did, it does well when things get into the algorithm on YouTube until they realize, oh, that's Viva Fry, and then we got to now kill the traffic on that and whatever. So there might be some new people here. For all new people in the house, we start on CommieTube, we start on Rumble, Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. After a little bit, we're going to end on CommieTube and go over to Rumble and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And then we have our vivabarneslaw.locals.com after party, where everyone is above average, a wonderful community. Tonight, we're talking election stuff. Can you believe it, people? I'm having not shortness of breaths, probably drinking too much caffeinated beverages and the ensuing anxiety. We're 48 hours now from when they start closing election booths. I think I don't know. I don't want to get arrested and convicted and sentenced. I don't know what time they close voting at the easternmost point. We are 48 hours from the evening where we find out what direction America is going to take. And I can't believe it. I just, it's 2 more sleeps, people. We were talking about this in our locals community. 2 more sleeps. And then we find out the trajectory of the future of these United States of America. So tonight, I'm going to talk about some interesting, law stuffs and the fun stuff. So I'm going to go through some fun videos in a second. But we're going to go through a lot of the amendments that are on the ballots in various states. Amendment 3 and 4 in Florida. There are abortion amendments on various ballots, various states. We're going to go through all of that. What did I start with tonight? I started with Nicole Arbour. It was either we start with something that will not upset many people's eyes, except for the prudish out there, and I say that without judgment, or we start with something that's going to make you want to vomit. So I figured we'd start with the good stuff, and then we're going to get to the stuff that's going to make you want to vomit. Have you all heard the latest gaffe by Joe Biden? He just wants to smack people in the ass. Anybody who has had disciplinarian parents, you know that every now and again they say, when we grew up, it was my hand's getting nervous. You get a little spanking if you're a little too rude, and my hand's getting nervous. You do not get an old, demented fart like Joe Biden to say something like this unless it's something that he has said multiple times in his life. And I can envision Joe Biden as I sincerely, it's my personal opinion. I believe him to be a pervert. I believe his daughter's words when she says it. I can envision Joe Biden as an angry, abusive father saying, "You say that one more time, I'm going to smack you in the ass." And if you have any doubts, just apply this. Mutatis mutandis. This is his latest gaffe. Talking about how he wants to smack Donald Trump in the ass, but look at his demented, satanic face as he says it.
Micron invested $100 billion to build them. It's a kind of investment that won't just lift up labor. It's going to lift up everybody. It's going to grow the economy. They want to get rid of it. They want to get rid of it. They want to get rid of it.
We heard you the first 2 times.
Look, why?
Look,
cheaper labor overseas, man.
Oh yeah.
Cheaper labor. There's one more thing Trump and his Republican friends want to do.
Listen to this.
They want another giant tax cut for the wealthy. Now, I know some of you guys are tempted to think it's macho guy. I'll tell you what, man. When I was in Scranton, we used to have a little trouble going down the plot once in a while.
When I was in Scranton, we used to have a little trouble going down the plot once. I don't even know what that means, but I've also never been in a fight in my entire life.
But I'm serious.
Look at this.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
It's horrific. It's actually scary. And then the buffoons in the audience cheering this on, like this is like the idiots that cheered on Hillary Clinton when she referred to they fit into what I call a basket of deplorables. You got your racists, bigots, misogynists, xenophobes, you name it. And then the crowd, not really understanding what this woman is doing to her campaign, cheers it on because it feels so good to say it and it feels so good to get the adulation of a In this case, violence supporting crowd of sycophants. Look at his ugly, ugly face. What is up with that? Anyhow, look at this. God, this is what you would see in Satan's lair. This is the face of a demon before it eats your soul. And why is his face drooping so much more on the right than on the left? A scowl. I try not to get consumed by, it's not hatred anymore. Now it's just disappointment in the world, disappointment with the political elite. But listen to, you're gonna smack him. And you know that he has said this to his children multiple times in his life. And he's probably done it if we listen to the words of Ashley Biden in her diary.
Plot once in a while. But I'm serious. These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
I mean, I think he meant smack in the face and kick in the ass, unless he's into smacking the asses of other dudes. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into. But this is like, you do that again, I'm going to smack your ass. This is an abusive, demented old man who's letting his colors shine right now, much to the joy of the joyous Kamala Harris campaign. This dog, man. But don't worry. Oh, we're not done yet. But latest gaffe. I mean, they are going to retire this man from the campaign. Well, I mean, the campaign's over in 2 days anyhow. But I predicted that this guy's he's resigning. He's not finishing his term because this is just a liability for America. Can you imagine Putin looking at this ugly, demented face, this senile buffoon, and understanding that, admittedly, there's some sort of deeper administration that's allowing America to continue to exist. It's a captainless ship that is obviously being steered by a military-industrial complex, a deep state uniparty, whatever you want to call it. Laughing stock of the world. America has become the laughing stock of the world under this regime. Smack him in the head. Disgusting, disgusting, terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. But don't worry, we got more also, by the way. Speaking of people, they don't think about what they're saying. They don't hear the words in their own mind before they say them. Sometimes I flub and sometimes I say things, they don't come up properly, and then I catch them and I correct them. It's either a blessing or a curse. I hear the words in my head before they come out of my mouth. It's not a blessing or a curse that the likes of Nanny Banger, Doug Emhoff suffer from.
Kamala did what Kamala always does. She just put her head down and she went to work. Kamala did what Kamala always does. She just put her head down and she went to work.
Oh, yeah.
Kamala did what Kamala always does. She just put her head down and she went to work.
I mean, that is so gloriously bad. That is courtesy of Libs of TikTok. It's fantastic. But look, it's not all fun and games, people. We're going to get to some other more irritating stuff in a second. Remember we once talked about Monica Lewinsky on the channel? I don't remember when it was, and I don't actually remember the exact context. But there were people floating around the idea that Monica Lewinsky was never actually sexually exploited by Bill Clinton, because I was inclined to believe, and I do believe that, I believed her story. I believe that any president of these United States of America that is engaging in sexual activity as a married man in the Oval Office with an intern who is in her 20s, if that, is engaging in some sort of abuse of power, and it's immoral, and I suspect it might be illegal in certain jurisdictions. Then some people in the chat were saying, Viva, Monica Lewinsky is a Mossad plot blackmail type thing, and she was sent in to get blackmail material on Bill Clinton. And I never really, I don't laugh it off as a possibility, just never put much stock into that theory. That stock just went up quite a bit, for those of you who don't know. Monica Lewinsky tweeted this out. You've got the power. I voted. Let me see something here. Can we see it? You vote. No, yo vote. Yo vote. Whatever. She voted. Okay, good for her. Who'd she vote for? Close this. Please vote. Red, white, and blue heart emojis. So cute. Preferably like I did for Harris Walls. I made a joke. I was like, hey, Monica, in my replies, and congratulations on your big decision. We should crack out a cigar to celebrate your insanely idiotic decision. Bada bing, bada boom. Too soon? Too soon, Monica? Oh, I'm sorry. You might have forgotten. Now I'm inclined to think that she was, in fact, not telling the entire truth about having been sexually abused by Bill Clinton and then having been destroyed by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. I'm starting to think that she actually might have been a willing player in this, potentially for blackmail purposes, for foreign intelligence to, I don't know, extort foreign policy from current sitting, or in Bill's case, laying back presidents. Can you imagine Monica Lewinsky, who came out during the hashtag Me Too, because I guess she wanted some of that sympathy action. It says, Me Too, I was sexually abused and I was exploited by Bill Clinton. Then I was brushed under the rug and had my life destroyed by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. But I'm going to go ahead and vote for them now. Monica Lewinsky is going to vote for, or has announced that she's voting for, the tyrant that is Tim Walz, the nanny banger, Doug Emhoff. She's not technically not an infidel. She's not the adulterer. She is the paramour. Kamala Harris, a paramour who had a relationship with a married man 40 years her senior to further her career, who is now being endorsed by the other nanny banger, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This woman is now supporting that party that is basically the party of immorality and degeneracy, who tried to ruin her life, but I guess she forgot. Unless it never actually happened the way she said it did, and she wasn't a hashtag Me Too, and it was part of some intelligence operation. But there you have your irony of the day. Alleged Me Too victim, Monica Lewinsky, voting for the party of degeneracy that abused her, exploited her, and allegedly, tried to destroy her life. We'll get to some more in a bit here. So let me get to some chats here. I'm Not Your Buddy Guy says, it's unnerving to know that the fate of the planet will be determined in a couple of days to potentially a few weeks. Shenanigans are underway, and I genuinely worry the worst may happen, but I'll pray good wins. Do not be blackpilled. I'm convinced there's two theories to what's going on in the markets. And I shared it on our Viva Locals.com community. The markets have swayed wildly for no good reason, except that every election you can have whomever, quite clearly. You could have John Fetterman as the candidate for the Democrats, and it would still be 50-50. I made the joke. You could run a non-existent candidate. You could run an animal. And just so long as you never show the picture of the animal so that Democrats don't know they're voting for an animal, Peanut. Vote for Peanut. Trust me, he's a great guy, Peanut. He's smart, good looking. Just he doesn't like cameras very much, so you're never going to see a picture of him. He's only going to participate in audio calls on Twitter Spaces. He won't do any debates. Peanut. Vote for Peanut. They'd vote for Peanut if they didn't know that Peanut was an animal, and I still think that a great many Democrats would vote for Peanut even if they knew he was an animal. You could put John Fetterman in that candidacy, in that position for the Democrats. It would still be 50-50. So what might be happening now? Everybody knows it's 50-50, and those who made their money by buying in on Trump when he was at 43 cents sold him at 60, and now the markets are stabilizing. Flip side, this might be some sort of, what do they call it? AstroTurfing, so that if and when there's the big steal, whatever, which I do not believe is going to happen, but flood the swamp, as Ashley, who said it on Cripe? Ashley St. Clair. Flood the swamp so that it can't be, but they're going to AstroTurf now, so they say like, oh, Kamala won. How could this have happened? Well, 2 days before the election, she was actually the favorite in the betting market. She made a surprising comeback after her Saturday Night Live appearance, so nothing to complain about. And then the flip side is it might be a good thing. Let the Democrats think this is in the bag and show up and vote on the 30th. We're going to get to, we'll get to Fetterman right now. Speaking of Fetterman being an absolute, the thing is this, dude, I'm starting to think Fetterman was always a little off even before his stroke. But you understand why Kamala Harris could never have gone on Joe Rogan. This is not an adversarial confrontation right here whatsoever, but it is revelatory because these are concerns that Joe Rogan has had for a very long time. Let in a bunch of illegal immigrants, ship them to swing states, swing counties and swing states, expedite them through the citizenship process, grant them TPS and then grant them amnesty and then make them voting citizens. And you've turned swing states into blue states and you've turned America into a one-party country for the rest of the future until it turns into a Venezuela. So he's asking John Fetterman a very simple question about the immigration policy and the illegal immigration policy. Is it by design or is it by accident? And listen to this exchange.
But didn't that deal also involve amnesty? And didn't that deal also involve a significant number of illegal aliens being allowed into the country every year? I think it was 2 million people. So it's still the same sort of situation, and their fear is exactly what I talked about, that these people will be moved to swing states, and that will be used to essentially rig those states and turn them blue forever.
Well, I'm not really sure if that's what's in play. I think it's really like it's important that we have an honest conversation.
But doesn't that seem logical though? If you have a significant number of people that are being moved into swing states that have come across the border illegally, and then you've provided them with all these services, you provided them with food stamps, EBT, you've provided them with housing. You could, if you gave those people amnesty and allowed those people to vote, and it was very organized. You're talking about 75,000 votes over a few counties that switched everything over to the Republicans.
Pause it right here. Joe's face right now. This is a man who, he's a very polite man and a great interviewer. He knows that he's talking to a man who's full of shit. And these are the eyes of someone who has gone from a lefty-leaning blue Democrat to I'm too old for this shit and I see it for what it is. Listen to this.
You could see how you import 10 million people over the course of 4 years.
At least.
Illegally, and then move a significant number of them to swing states.
Confirmed.
And then provide them with all these services and then give them a path to citizenship. You could essentially rig those states.
Undeniably, immigration is changing our nation. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Texas, but it's very clear that immigration has remade Texas.
Hold them a path to citizenship. You could essentially rig those states.
Undeniably,
immigration is changing our nation.
Undeniably, immigration is changing our nation. Yeah, the answer to that is yes. And John Fetterman, I make the life insurance joke, or John Fetterman is not suicidal. You know why Kamala Harris could never have gone on Joe Rogan, and that her counter was actually just a refusal in disguise. All right, while Barnes gets in here, because I see him in the backdrop. Oh, we're still pinned there. Sweaty Zeus, thank you very much for the donation. We got Charles Griner, who says, if I can see this, down here in Georgia, there's a notice in the polls that only selected names can be written in, otherwise the vote will not be counted. Is that constitutional? I'll pick Barnes's big brain on that one. And Barnes, while you do that, hold on one second. Let me just see if I don't miss any on CommiTube, because they don't come up all the time here. There's a red one. There's a red super chat. It's $100 from Beavis Wallace. Beavis Wallace in the house. Another election watching Viva for my election news. We're live, by the way, Tuesday night, so stay tuned. Thank you, my Canadian buddy. I've been watching you and Barnes from the beginning. Hope you remember me from your earliest. Beavis, I absolutely remember your name. And 1,000%. It's a $100 super chat. Thank you very much. But the most efficient way to support us is at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Robert, are you pooping your pants because of what you see happening in the markets?
Oh, no, not at all. But I was sick all day Saturday, so I was out. I was got one of those 24-hour sickness that was just dunked me out. Couldn't move really.
Oh boy. I won't ask for details. Let me just ask the locals chat if the audio is. I think you might be low. Is audio good? I don't know if let me see. Let me just see what chat says about audio. Is audio good? Got someone with a picture of. Oh, I see. Okay, we got someone with Barnes is low. Robert, are you able to up your volume a little bit?
I don't know. What about now?
No. Bring it as close as you can. It's substantially lower than prior episodes.
That's odd. I don't know why, because it's closer to me than normal.
And let me see if I can't. What I'll do is maybe I'll lower my. See, this is why studio needs to be able to tinker with these things. I'll talk lower, and maybe talk louder, Barnes. Okay. We'll get into it. Oh, he's out. I scared him away. He's back.
I was double checking that it was the right. Yeah, everything's on the right system.
Okay. Well, it's a little low. Maybe see, and I have no way. And on your modulator thing, there's no volume on your cloud lifter. Is that what they're called?
Not that I know of.
Okay, forget it. Let me see here. Hold on a second. Okay, whatever. We'll deal with it. I'll just move my mic away, and then everyone's going to jack up their audio. Robert, so what do you think is happening with the markets?
Oh, you mean the political betting markets?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on with Bill Krakenberger, one of the great class acts of sports gambling. One of the famous sports bettor. He was featured in a Showtime series years ago. They had this guy that likes to sell his picks, who's kind of known as a questionable tout, as they're called in the business. Another friend of mine, Kelly in Vegas, who was a young and up and coming sports pick handicapper at the time.
We had her on a couple of years ago
did.
now.
And I'll see if Bill will hop on to do a show at some point. Maybe before the Super Bowl would be a cool time period to do one. But grew up a blue collar kid from Jersey. Doing sports betting the time he was a kid. One of the most successful sports gamblers in the world. He has an app that he gives out his picks at, Crack Wins app. It's one of the few subscription services I've ever used because of how good he is. He moves markets with the moment he drops a pick, especially on college basketball totals. So I was on his show this weekend. He does a nice little show it's mostly meant for public benefit, give people insights and information into the gambling world, into the casino world, into the sports betting world. So it's more of an informational service than a promotional service. I don't think he ever even talks about his incredibly successful app at all. But I was on there to talk about the political betting, that now that it's legal in large parts of the United States through the big win that we talked about of Kalshi beating the Biden administration. Once that happened, interactive brokers opened up markets, and the FTC very belatedly, but ultimately didn't want Kalshi, I think, dominating the market. So they allowed Robinhood to open up election markets. So you can easily, legally, cleanly bet without any risk in Kalshi, in interactive brokers, and at Robinhood in the U.S. Now, a lot of U.S. customers, there's still a lot of U.S. customers through crypto on Polymarket. You still have Predict It, which is freely available, also legal in the U.S. It just has caps on how much you can bet and a little bit higher fees that it can use. And then you have all the offshore books that take a lot of U.S. money and that are pretty safe. It's just they're not as easily accessible as these other U.S. markets are. So once that happened, you were going to have a lot of U.S. money flood in. The people most eager to bet out of the gate were Trump bettors who had been sort of held back by all of the accessibility issues with getting into Polymarket, getting into these other markets. And the reason why Polymarket had moved heavily towards Trump is there's some big bettors betting huge sums they're completely apolitical on Trump. There's this one guy they're obsessed with, this famous French trader who's got about $30 million bet on Trump.
30 million.
30 million. So you got some big markets like that. The big bettors can really move it if they want to move it. And so he wasn't trying to move it. He was just like, Trump's undervalued. And his analysis, by the way, is very simple. I'm pretty sure by his quotes he took from some things that I had said over the years. But hey, that makes him a smart political gambler. Look for somebody who's made a lot of money in political betting, see what they say, see if I can use it for this election, see if I can make money on it. It's like knowing what Warren Buffett or Druckenmiller is going to do before they do it in the stock market. Yeah, it's probably a pretty safe strategy over time. Or if you're in on the same inside information that maybe someone like Mr. Cohen, the owner of the Mets, was back in the day. Well, that's another story for another day. So early money was what I predicted on Crack. Did the episode on Friday, and I said what to look for over the weekend is for Harris money to come in. That there's probably going to be some media-shaped narratives that are pro-Harris, particularly in the polling world, and a lot of your novice gamblers are going to like the polls and are going to rely on the polls. If I've been betting politics around the world for a decade, betting politics in the U.S. for the better part of 2 decades. And what I usually do is bet against the polls, to be honest. It's to know when the polls are right or wrong or when they overstate something. And in the U.S., they're particularly bad. The exit polls are the worst. Most money I ever made in an election before 2016 was 2004 on election night. Election night, the exit polls said John Kerry had easily won. John Kerry on election night was was over 70% chance he would win the election in the live election markets. So I was hammering Bush, just boom, boom, boom. I was like, no, the exit polls have always been wrong. They're wrong again. They're useless. And of course, Bush cashed, but I got on election night better than 2-1. Brexit on election night because of wrong exit polls was 10-1, 10-1 on election night in London. And of course it won 10-1. Imagine that payout. Not a lot of one day 10-1 payouts you get in the world of investing. So So what I predicted on Krackenberger was I was like, if you want to bet Harris, bet her now because she's likely going to go up over the weekend. If you want to bet Trump, wait until probably early, maybe even late Tuesday, because the exit polls are going to say Harris is winning, and Harris is going to go up again in the markets on Tuesday, and you could probably get your best value on Trump midday on Tuesday if you're trying to time it. There's always risk.
I want to correct this person right here. Trump won it. This is not gambling. This is investing in knowledge.
It's no different than the stock market. If you think predictions are gambling, then you don't understand investment. You don't understand economics. You don't understand human life. So there's a difference between gambling. True gambling is gambling on random events of chance.
Dice.
By the way, to that person, find me the quote in the Bible that says gambling is a sin. Hint, ain't in there. You're wrong. Just a little FYI. There's reasons to be wary of true random games of chance where the house has the odds because you're paying for entertainment is what you're paying for because you're going to pay some percentage for it. But for some people, that's fun and enjoyment. And it's been a myth within the particularly the Protestant tradition that gambling is a sin. It's not. You don't hear much of the Catholic tradition because that's what do you call bingos on Friday and Saturday night? Bingo is actually gambling, and yet all kinds of churches do it. But that's a common myth, and it's completely false. I'll debate anybody on that anywhere. But when I'm talking about sports gambling, what's called sports gambling, it's not in fact gambling because it's not a random game of chance under the law. It is based on a skill. Why Bill Krackenberger isn't good at it because he's randomly lucky for 25 years running. He's good at it because it's a game of skill. Poker is a game of skill. Political betting is a game of skill. It's about figuring out what do you think the most likely set of events are. And there's no certainties. To paraphrase the great George Gammon, there's no, in any aspect of investing, there are no certainties. There are only probabilities. People always tend to forget that, but that's always a point. So you're just trying to assess where the probability you think of something happening is greater than what the markets say is going to happen. And that's the sort of true nature of certain kinds of predictive investing that's profitable over time. And so I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me what the squirrel story is because I just saw some references to it. I have no idea.
Well, if you were out of commission yesterday, Robert, that was one hell of a day. But hold on, Robert. I mean, I'm looking at it, and I understand predicted it might be more easy to manipulate, but like I can understand your argument. Like I just see this. It doesn't seem organic, but I can understand where you're getting at in terms of.
Well, it was partially not organic in just the sense that Trump money was going to be the first money in these markets. Because they're sitting there looking at Polymarket, Trump at 65%. So they could get Trump below that on Kalshi. So they were hammering Kalshi. So so you even had people doing sort of arbitrage opportunities.
Interesting.
So the early money was going to be Trump. And then then there was going to be Harris money to come in because they would, just like you look at Steve Fezzik, big famous sports bettor here in Vegas, known as the Blue Horseshoe. He's liked Harris because he just looks at it from the perspective of a traditional sports bettor, which is, okay, the polls are saying it's even and she's an underdog in the markets. That must mean there's value in the markets on the underdog. And there's limits to extending sports logic to political logic. The biggest one is he's relying on polls. That's the issue there. But it otherwise makes sense what his logic is. So you knew that money was going to come back in. So and then you knew, especially a lot of these sports bettors, political bettors, are going to be novices. It always strikes me. I never thought I would see a betting environment for an election as good as 2016 was. And that's why I took every penny, nickel, dime, and dollar I had to my name, went over to London and placed the bets. And little sports books all around London, all around Dublin, became world famous for it because it got leaked out to some local bookies were calling the local press saying, this crazy guy's coming here betting all his money on Trump. Paddy Power, famous Irish bookie, had already paid out Hillary bets. Said, this guarantees she's going to win. We're going to pay you out in advance. That's how certain they were over there. And of course, Trump won. 2024 is shaping up even better from a betting election environment. than 2016 in many respects. Not in all respects, because Trump said even money rather than a 2-1, 3-1 underdog like he was in 2016. In 2016, he was an 8-1 underdog in Wisconsin. You know, the odds I could get over there were just crazy. But these odds are striking. Because of the people believing that the polls, and I'll be on tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time with What Are the Odds with Richard Barris, People's Pundit Daily, most accurate pollster going for a decade now. He already has his final national poll ready. It might show something different than some of what the media wants to say, but there's actually a range of data that all points in the exact same direction. And you could start with just Gallup's data. And you say, okay, if Gallup is right, then I should see this in the national polling. I should see this in the battleground polling. I should see this in the voter registration data. I should see this in the early voting results. And guess what? It all aligns literally perfectly. And as you'd see, this point movement is what you would expect. And you get exactly that between polls to polls, the same polls to cycle. Same in the states, same on the red voter registration, same on the early voting data. So unless all the fundamentals are wrong, Gallup's wrong for the first time in forever in terms of this level of disparity. Unless all these underlying metrics, voter registration, early voting data is wrong, the election is not going to go the way a lot of the Harris bettors are coming in.
The memes are so damn good. I'll tell you what happened with the squirrel in a second. Okay, well that's good enough. I mean, like I don't care. I would, I got Trump at 43 cents on predicted, and you could sell and try to intertrade, but that's it. I'm
at Sports Picks. I gave him out when he was at 40. Said that it would be unlikely he would dip below 50 before Election Day. I think that's probably still the case. There's a possibility he dips below 50 on Election Day because of the exit polls. Will probably show Harris +3, Harris +5, something like that. The exit polls people think exit polls are right. When they don't realize is the exit polls go back and change the exit polls. So to match the election results. They don't realize the exit polls actually never match the election results while they're being done.
Well, actually, on predicted today, Trump was below 50. He was at 47, I think, for a brief time.
Predicted was where you can get him the cheapest. Highly unlikely in poly market because there's some big money behind Trump there. On Kalshi, maybe he'll get below 50. Not likely. Robinhood maybe a little more likely. Interactive Brokers unlikely. Here's the other thing to know: the most sophisticated Wall Street traders who only look at predicting elections for the purposes of investment traditions, even a lot of them whom, by the way, personally hate Trump, are pretty much universally predicting an easy Trump win. So that's what people who really look at data, that's what they're saying. But the betting markets, you're going to get some real opportunities over this weekend. But if you want Harris, better now. She might go up more. She's more likely to go up in the markets than down in the markets between now and Tuesday afternoon. And if you want Trump, you could probably wait till Tuesday afternoon and get the best value.
Florida Dad over on CommieTube says, I just lost it. Hold on 1 second, because these are not going to be up forever. I bought 3,000 shares of DJT when Kamala was predicted to win. Exact same principle. I just don't know how to do Barnes markets via 401k. LOL. Florida Dad, good to see you again. All right. Well, we're going to get into the election stuff because some people are saying, jokingly, does this factor in cheating? I was trying to figure out if Mark should come on tonight or tomorrow, but I'm going to get Mark Robert is going to come on tomorrow to talk about what we talked about last night, his theory about what they should do in Philadelphia as far as reporting results coming into the election night. But before we get into the election stuff, which we'll do exclusively on Rumble, you didn't hear about the squirrel yet, or you don't know the full details? Okay.
No, I know nothing about the squirrel.
How many people watching don't yet know the details? Because I put out 2 videos now, today and yesterday. Robert, it'll make you want to vomit. Like, this is how John Wick is born, but I don't want to make certain jokes and think, have people think I'm promoting violence. This is the type of thing that can make people snap, and this is how people become the killdozer guy. It's a couple, a guy named Mark Longo and Danny Longo, husband and wife, living in New York, and they saw a squirrel get run over by a car, something along those lines, like 7 years ago. The orphaned baby they took in and decided they couldn't release the orphaned baby because it's past the point of being able to live on its own, and so they kept it. Called it Peanut, P-N-U-T. They also had a raccoon that was a rescue for whatever the reason. And then they eventually, they made an Instagram page for this cute squirrel, a big fat black eastern squirrel. Instagram page had over 1 million followers. Apparently they were being accused of exploitation of an animal, exploitation for profit. I don't know how it works. They had haters online. And apparently the haters called the New York Department of Environmental Conservationism, who then allegedly they were told of a vector of rabies in their house. They go to a judge. I haven't seen the court filing of the documents yet, but I'm going to. And they go to see a judge who issues a warrant to, I guess, seize the vectors for rabies. And they go to this guy's house, raid his house, have him outside. He's got rescue horses. He turned it into something of a not-for-profit rescue organization as well. They keep him outside of the house for 5 hours while they ransack every nook and cranny of his house. They get the squirrel, I guess, and the squirrel, people were saying, like, how are they not wearing leather gloves with it, whatever? The squirrel bites the hand of one of the agents who are there to seize it. And so they euthanize the squirrel and the raccoon to test for rabies. Within 24 hours, they seize the squirrels. Longo goes onto Instagram, starts a fundraiser to get money so that he can fight to get his animals back. And they murdered his animals before he could get them back. And I appreciate murder only applies to the unlawful killing of a human. I'm going to expand the definition of murder. They murdered his pets. This
Well,
squirrel,
they call it that when they don't like what someone has done it. When a farmer has done it and they don't think it's approved in Pennsylvania, they criminally prosecute them for felony murder.
And so the guy goes on TMZ. He's given interviews. I reached out to him and I hope to be able to have him on. He explains what happens. They go in, they keep him outside. They seize his. It's a.
Let me take a wild guess. The rabies test probably came back negative.
It's obvious. First of all, like I said from experience, squirrels don't get rabies. The raccoons may every now and again, but they've been in his possession for years. They might have very well. The raccoon might have been vaccinated. I don't know. Squirrels, I don't know how you vaccinate for rabies, but they don't carry rabies. And certainly when you get bit out of an act of aggression, when you're, seizing an animal, it's not a rabid animal bite. And there's never been a case of a squirrel giving a human rabies, ever. So they killed his animals. And Trump got on it. He's apparently meeting with Trump. And I say, like, this isn't really
Trump.
It's
for
wild.
The cats, for the dogs,
for the cats, the dogs,
the
the squirrels and the raccoons. Justice for Peanut and justice for Fred. Fred was the raccoon.
Peanut. That's great. Justice.
So that's the massive news. But this is like,
I can't go with the raccoons. Those are sneaky little animals.
If
They're always
you've
up to
ever
something
seen them,
bad.
Yeah, but if you've ever seen them, like I know my vet in Montreal had a couple as pets. They're really, really cute. And the way they use their
that's definitely true.
Smart, dexterous.
Have you seen them pretending to be dead? Those famous, like they'll see a video camera and they think someone's there and they'll freeze and they'll pretend to be.
No, but I saw a possum pretend to be dead on my front steps. One of the, so that's the story of what went on with the raccoon and the squirrel. And to everybody out there, the guy, I'm not saying anything private. I read this in an article. He had an OnlyFans page. It was for something totally different.
Peanut lives matter.
Well, apparently
matter. That's great.
His OnlyFans was Squirrel Daddy. And I was like, when I found that out, it was in an article. I'm like, please, if we find out he was using the squirrel for something dirty, but he wasn't. It's a totally separate thing, and to each their own. But they murdered this guy's beloved animals. And I said as a joke, like rescue animals, the cliche is that sometimes they rescue the owners. The guy's obviously got things in his life that this squirrel meant exponentially more than anybody could possibly imagine. And you get an awful communist hochul state to come in and murder your animals. And
tell you what, Environmental Conservation Department.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and the squirrel.
And they love using as their excuse
disease.
Disease. Disease is their favorite pretext for control. Whether it's prohibiting you from getting the food that you want, requiring you to take medicine you don't want, controlling your body at every level, controlling what you can do with your own property. It's all done in the name of disease and environment. It's discredited the environmental movement completely. I mean, there's an environmental movement that went from making sure your creeks don't have a bunch of crap in it, making sure your land isn't being polluted by the local big chemical company, things that were common sense, Robert Kennedy style environmentalism became Bill Gates excuses to run your life. Things that had nothing to do with actual environmentalism, environmental apocalyptic logic. It shows you why we can't give the state this power. And it's another sad example. That judge is going to, for once, regret signing a search warrant. These judges constantly just are rubber stamps for search warrants. You get a search warrant to grab a squirrel, you should be like, hold on a second.
But it's a squirrel that's on Instagram. The world knows the squirrel. It's not like he's harboring disgusting, rancid animals. And even then, but he was also, Robert, in the process of registering the squirrel as an educational animal. You see the videos. He comes into his house. The squirrel jumps off the drapes onto his shoulder. It's tragic. It's offensive. And Elon's on it. Trump is on it. The world is on it. And it's like what a moment, because I think it's gonna wake some people up. Okay, but let me, I'm gonna do a couple things. So let me bring a few of these up before we go over to Crumble. The Jay Westcott says, well, I don't know about the rest of the East Coast, but Bucks County wants us to believe that the polls closed at noon last Wednesday or Thursday. LOL. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that in a second. And then CSI referee says the drooping on the right side is an affect from the aneurysm he had years ago. Interesting. I didn't know that. I thought it was just Satan creeping into his body and making him evil. The most disturbing part that I've experienced recently is talking to some of these people on the left and hearing how they are open to, quote, mass human removal so they can stop these extremists. Robert, it was not something that I don't know if you knew about it that we're going to talk about, if I may. Did you read Trump's lawsuit against CBS? Because it's going to tie in a little bit to maybe a FCC violation from Saturday Night Live.
I have not as yet.
Okay, so the bottom line, Trump is suing CBS for $10 billion. I love it. Suing them for $10 billion, but it's under the Texas Business and Commerce Code. And he's alleging that as a consumer, CBS violated, false advertising or deceptive business practices.
Oh, right.
And so the only question I had, and I don't know if you've had any immediate or direct experience, is, on the one hand, standing and jurisdiction.
Well, here liberal judges have allowed all kinds of crazy things against conservatives in Austin on all kinds of legal theories that before were utterly unprecedented and had been rejected. So I've been encouraging conservatives, okay, go ahead, force the higher courts to undo all of these cases, or if it's going to be greenlit, it has to be greenlit for both sides. And then liberals are going to pay a higher price than conservatives over time because they can sue in a range of different courts. They can sue in federal court. They can sue in other courts, smaller county courts that are 80, 90% Republican juries. So that there has to be a payback to this weaponized lawfare by the left in places like Austin, Texas.
And in terms of FCC jurisdiction, because what I can imagine they will say is this is FCC exclusive jurisdiction. It's not like a false advertisement on a commercial.
That wouldn't be federal preemption, no.
Okay. And then the last question I had was $10 billion. I don't know how they got to the quantum. Did you hear about the Saturday Night Live skit issue controversy last night?
Yeah, I mean, they basically just did a promo ad for Kamala Harris, which right on the eve of the election, which they know from prior issues with Saturday Night Live they cannot do. They've been caught before just extending an invite to one candidate over the other on the eve of an election, and they were scolded and told no, they can't do that legally. NBC, so they didn't care and they repeated it, which by the way tells you they don't believe a lot of the polling and other data. They think Harris is in trouble. They're willing to do a repeat violation on the eve of an election. And what all these networks are proving is there has to be consequences for the networks. These networks have become overt, open propagandists to a ridiculous degree. There had always been bias, but now the bias is 90-10. It's just absurd. You'll hear 1,000 stories about a comedian telling a joke about Puerto Rico. That is actually a popular joke within Puerto Rico due to its landfill issues. And you'll hear 0 stories about the president of the United States calling half of the country garbage. By the same, I'm sorry, they don't deserve free airwaves anymore. That should be taken away from them entirely. And they are engaged in systemic election interference. And the Democrats have set the platform for this. They've called a lot of certain kinds of media advocacy election interference. They called it for that when they were going after foreign governments for it. Okay, now CBS, ABC, NBC need to all be put in the dock. These networks that have become open, overt propagandists for one particular party who are engaged in billions and billions of dollars of free political advertising for one political party need to either be shut down, need to have their licenses taken away, need to have to pay for the airwaves they've been getting freely all these years, all these decades. There needs to be consequence. Otherwise, you can't sustain a country or a constitutional republic with three mainstream media networks overtly propagandizing on behalf of one party over the other and violating known rules and known precedents on the eve of an election just to try to shape its outcome. I mean, enough is enough at some point, just as with Google, shaping with its algorithm $1 billion worth of media marketing, as Robert Epstein has documented repeatedly. There has to be consequences for this. Otherwise, that there'll be no fixing it. There'll be, we have a media network worse than the Soviet propaganda network, because at least in the Soviet Union, they knew it was propaganda. Many Americans don't know still that it's propaganda, more than ever do, but not most. And that's a problem.
Now, everybody, election night, we will be live. You'll be bumping in and out, but we're going to set something up for our community. It's going to be live all night, and I'll try to man it in as much as humanly possible. We're going to pop in with Mark Robert and Eric Hundley down the street. Going to pop in with Dave Rubin, I think at 11:30. Rebel News at some point. We will have our evening, and it will be on all platforms. For right now, we're going over to Rumble. So there are 5,900 people watching on YouTube. Come over to Rumble. I know some of you don't like the format, whatever, and you can come over to Locals too. Tuesday will be live on all platforms, but tonight we're going to go discuss the election stuff on Rumble, and not because we're not allowed discussing it here, but because we need to vote with our feet, our eyeballs, and build up the platforms that are letting us have this discussion. So come on over to Rumble as I'll look at the number to make sure it goes down. We're talking about, Pennsylvania, there's been some updates. Obviously, a lot of lawsuits this week. Georgia, there's some chicanery. Virginia, there's been some chicanery. And we're going to go over the amendments that are on various ballots.
Yeah, we got abortion. We got elections. We got criminal justice reform. We got minimum wage. We got energy. We got environment. Sometimes we got the energy against the environment, depending on how you perceive the issue. We have marijuana. So we have a lot of hot button issues across the country on ballots and initiatives. There's over 60, but about 50, most of them are in those topics. So we'll give you some analysis. Some of it's different than what you may expect, because people had been asking commonly, legally, what's the impact of this? And in particular, they're asking this about the abortion one. I know people that are here in Nevada that are strongly pro-choice that voted no on the pro-choice amendment. And it applies to the same reasoning, applies across the country to pretty much every abortion referendum. We'll get into what the pro-choice community took a gamble doing. They're trying to sneak one in over on the electorate. Something that looks to represent the majority viewpoint, in fact, represents the minority viewpoint by just one little verbiage change in the law. So we'll be covering some of those and more as we go on tonight.
And now everyone who's leaving YouTube, before you go, make sure that you have subscribed and turned on notifications, because I know that a lot of people say, I've been auto-subscribed and my notifications turned off. So leaving YouTube and Twitter as well, going over to the free speech platform Rumble, and you can come over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Making the transfer now, and I noticed the number is now under 5,000, and we're doing good. Leave. Come over, Rumble. Boom.